What is up, Jags fans? Man, I am pumped for another episode, live show of the Jaguars United live shows. So if this is your first show with us, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You get a notification if you hit that bell whenever the shows go live. Live shows are Tuesday and Friday nights at 9 p.m. Also, make sure to follow the Instagram and the Twitter. That way you get live notifications. Anytime we want to talk Jags or anything like that, I can communicate mostly through those social media platforms. So hit me up on there. We can talk Jags any time of the week. Another exciting announcement is that if you do follow the Twitter and the Instagram, that you've seen that we are now also a podcast. So when you can't watch the YouTube video, you can go back and listen to the podcast. I'm actually going to hit record on the podcast right now. So now we're live. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify. I use Spotify, but everything. I mean, I did not realize, and this is my first time in a long time. We did a podcast, me and some buddies, a podcast like 2017, and it's way different now. I mean, there is like 20 platforms people listen to podcasts on. It's crazy, like things I've never heard of before. So if you're listening to this podcast on iHeartRadio, then I didn't even realize people did that. We're going to be talking about the Jags and the Titans preview. We're going to preview the Titans and what they're bringing to the field. The Jags are in a little bit better position injury-wise than them. We're going to talk that. We're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence and what we think might happen with him coming up this week. So make sure to get into the comments. This is a fan show. I try to get into I read all the comments that are on there. Nolly Fullcap is the first one in the chat. Nolly Fullcap is also a channel member, so he can spam Blake Bortles emojis in the chat. He gets the cool green color in his name for me. First one in the chat. Thank you, Nolly, for being here. DJ M is here. Jason Trent fan is here. Brandon B made it finally. Fat Boy Shaw just wants to jump right into Trevor and just say hello. Thank you for saying hello. I appreciate that. You know I appreciate that, Fat Boy. He goes on to ask any word on Trevor. So the latest I've seen is that he said he's good to go, but he hasn't been practicing. If I had to guess, he's going to play. And we've seen a little bit of this when he had that injury last year where he missed like 2 plays where CJ Beathard came in. He missed a couple days of practice and still played the next week. Trevor Lawrence is a tough guy, man. Like, that's one thing that I feel like we have not talked about enough. If you've watched any of my shows in the past, we have not talked about how tough Trevor Lawrence is. If you looked at my Twitter, I posted a video of this hit he took in the college football playoff against Wade. I think it was Sean Wade from Ohio State. He's actually from Jacksonville. Went to Ohio State and got ejected from the game in like the first quarter for like a helmet-to-helmet hit on Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence is like almost knocked out, and he just gets up and keeps playing. The guy is resilient. He's tough. Not enough is said about his toughness. Like I picture Trevor Lawrence as being like the number 1 pick, and deservingly so, and a guy I want to ride with. And just one thing we do not talk about enough is his toughness. Like, he can take a hit for how like slight of frame he looks on TV. He can take a hit and he can play. So shout out to Trevor Lawrence. I gave Tyler Shatley a shout out on my last show, but it means so much to me that he's the Walter Payton player of the year nominee for the Jags that I wanted to just give him props again. Shout out to Tyler Shatley. Being the Walter Payton player of the year nominee for a team means that everyone on the team and everyone thought that you did a lot in the community. So shout out to T-Shat, great guy. Would love to have him on and talk about the things he's done. Cannot say enough good things about what that is. It kind of got buried on the last show. If you go back on the YouTube channel or go back and listen to the last podcast, we talked about the Jaguars cap situation and the options that Balky or whoever's GM next year may have with our tight cap situation. So go back and listen to that because we dived deep into the Jags cap situation. So if you're like an analytical type of person and you like numbers, go back, listen, or watch the last show. We dived deep into the numbers. And the glaring stat that came from it is that Cam Robinson in 2023 will be consuming more than 10% of the cap room on one player, Cam Robinson. That was the big takeaway. In the comments, DJM says another Jags podcast comeback. Man, the reason why I even got involved with another Jags podcast was because the guys that I did it with are just stand-up great guys. So what a great time back then. But I like going solo better, I think, because then I can just talk to the real fans in the chat. Ron Beedry in the comments says, "What's up, Jason?" Not much. I've been stalling talking Titans. I don't know why. I think now that I'm a podcaster, maybe it's gotten to my head a little bit, and maybe I'm just gonna sit here and talk more. But I got to remind myself that I'm not a podcaster. I'm a YouTuber. So if you're listening to the podcast, you're missing out on some PFF grades we're about to show. But I'll try to explain them as best I can. All right. Basically, what you're looking at for the offense of Tennessee is a very injured, depleted core. Treylon Burks is a guy that I think is very good, and I don't think the Titans GM completely whiffed on this as far as evaluating him as comparable to A.J. Brown. Obviously, the A.J. Brown trade got him fired, especially after the Eagles housed the Titans. But the Eagles are a really good team, and I think Treylon Burks is better than people think. I mean, I have a play here. Where's the Treylon Burks play? The play that he got hurt on last week. It sucks that the Eagles player did this, and it seemed kind of like a cheap hit. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, yes. Okay, here. So take a look at this. I mean, this is what would have really scared me had Treylon Burks been in the game. And I still think the Titans can do this stuff. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm showing a play from last week against the Eagles. And basically, to set the scene for you, is the Titans are in a pretty base 11 personnel with one tight end and one running back and shotgun. Very standard for nowadays in the NFL. Just a 1-by-2 formation. And the Eagles are playing just a straight cover one. Now, this is what Mike Caldwell wanted to do with the Jags. If we broke down all the film early in the season, Mike Caldwell ran cover one almost exclusively. I'm not kidding when I'm saying early in the season, first 5-6 games of the season, he played man, one high safety, 95% of the snaps. And I love that. That's the defense I would run, but you have to have good players to run it. And you have to have athletic players to run it, and you have to almost have experienced players to run it because the modern NFL knows how to expose it. So here you're going to see just a seam route here by Trey Burks, and it just sucks he got injured on this play. I mean, even though he's on the Titans, I never want to see any player get injured, ever. I love the game too much to see any of these guys that have worked their asses off to get injured. But, I mean, this was the type of thing he can do. So before we jump all over the Titans GM for trading A.J. Brown, I don't necessarily think he did too bad of a job replacing him, but Burks is going to be out. Going back to the PFF grades, this is why you podcasters need to just go ahead and switch on over and watch the YouTube show. We have a Kwankwu, their tight end, who I'm actually a really big fan of. Actually a really big fan. Now, the Titans use 4 tight ends. They will use 4 tight ends, which, again, I love. I love what the Titans do, both on offense and defense. They just haven't brought in the right players to do it. Kwankwu is a guy who I picked up in fantasy this week because I think he might have a touchdown here. I like what I see. He's only played in 32 snaps. I think this was last week. This was last week against the Eagles. Had a 76 grade, but if we look at the season grades for him, that's the defense. The season grades we're gonna pull up right here, and he's still second on the team, only behind Derrick Henry. with a 77.8 offensive grade. He's played in 231 snaps. And to put it into context how many offensive snaps that is for the Titans offense, Derrick Henry, who's probably played in all the snaps, minus a handful here or there, played in 452. So about half of the total snaps. But he's the type of guy that scores on the Jags. He flies under the radar. We're going to have to keep an eye on him. He's the type of guy that's going to sneak out for a red zone touchdown. Tannehill's been okay. Okay, he's been hurt 10 games. 74 offensive grade. As a runner, he's been good recently. So the problem with the Titans is they haven't been playing very good as of late. Their season's had an interesting little arc here. They went with they started 0-2. Season was looking kind of grim 2 games in. Then they won 5 in a row. They were feeling like pretty high on life, and then they lost 3 in a row to end to where they're at now. So they went 2 of 3, but they lost 3 in a row. So they've had a weird like up and down season. I don't know, man. I don't know. Try to get some of these comments that are in the YouTube. William says, little late. Let's go. Hey, William, at least you're here. Jesus is King is here. He says, is it next year yet? Jesus is King, you're already looking forward to next year, huh? This game, here's what I was thinking earlier, right? When I was thinking about you guys earlier today, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about with you guys. Something that I could not, get off my heart and soul was the fact that we're playing competitive football December 9th. Seriously, we have 2 games against the Titans. I know it's an outside shot. I think I even saw the percentage around 9% chance of the Jags making the playoffs. But you are telling me that we are playing meaningful football. How has it been? I think they were talking on the local radio, the points differential. After last week, it went into the negative. It was positive all season until last week, our disastrous game. It went into the negative. So now we're minus 14 point differential. They were talking on the local radio that last season we were minus 204 to end the season. Minus 204. So we're in a much better position now, I think. But it's exciting. We are going to have plenty of time to look to the draft. We have all off season. So Volkfang, who's a channel member, says Trevor's bones are really titanium rods and his tendons and ligaments are rubber. That's what I'm talking about. That's the super athlete. Hey, listen, I'll speak into existence, Volk. I got no problem at all. Let's do it. Jaggernaut says, Jags United. I hope you're all well, man. Hit that everyone. Yeah, Jaggernaut brings up a good point. He says hit the like button. Thank you for reminding me and everyone else. Hit the thumbs up. The last show we did, it's crazy. All of our shows get a lot of likes. So I do appreciate that from you guys. Thank you. Keep them up. If this is your first show with us, this is what we do twice a week. So if you like talking Jags, this is the place to be for sure. If you're listening to the podcast, I hope you're enjoying it. DJ M says, do you think Trevor will grow to be our presence guy? Like how Jalen, Calais, and Gardner once were. Their character was in the embodiment of the Jags. I love Trevor, but he doesn't have that. That's an interesting point there, DJ M. Does Trevor have the capacity to be the player that embodies the team's personality? I think the answer is yes. You got to remember that he is really young. He is really young. Stetson Bennett is 2 years older than Trevor Lawrence. Malik Hooker is older than Trevor Lawrence. These guys that are in the Heisman finalists are older than Trevor Lawrence, and Lawrence has been now going to have 2 years of experience on these guys. Treylon Burks, I think, is a year older than Trevor Lawrence. So the rookie for the Titans, Trevor's really young, and I think as he gets into his mid-20s, Trevor has the mental capacity and fortitude of elite players in the NFL. The way he composes himself in press conferences and interviews and things like that, the man is insanely poised. I think Trevor Lawrence is a candidate for one of these guys that walks out of football at a young age, right? Like I could see him like achieving a lot of things in life more than like an Andrew Luck, but then kind of walking away and being like, football's not the most important thing to me, which I respect. I really do. Hopefully we get some good years out of him, but the man has his priorities straight. I will say that. And he has the talent and the intangibles to be one of the game's greats, I think. No homer. So we'll see. And if he doesn't get injured on a play like that, like when I saw the play live, I watched it on TV because I wasn't at the Detroit game. When I was watching it on TV live, I thought his season was over. Then they went back and showed the replay, and then my original thought was confirmed. I thought the season was over for him. The way his leg was bent back underneath another player's, that I've seen that happen many times, and it's always a torn up knee, torn up ankle. Like no one walks away from that the way Trevor did, and he's like doing this multiple times. And maybe it's because he's young. Someone on the Jaguars subreddit, I brought this up on the Jaguars subreddit, and someone pointed out to me that it's because he's only 23 years old and he's young and kind of has the more like pliable bones and tendons. Like I see what you're saying there, but I've watched football long enough to see that particular movement of his body typically leads to a serious injury, and he has a sprained toe tendon. That's unbelievable. That being said, I'd sit him out. I would. Look, if you can't win with Beathard, then I don't know. I don't blame you, but I just don't see this team making the run. Jesus King says, I think Caldwell has to go. Our defense is worse this year than last year. Okay, so here's what the here's what they can do. Here's what the Titans can do, right? Treylon Burks, best player, I think, but Robert Woods isn't a bad player either, right? Robert Woods is a pretty decent player, and I think he'll get his. Derek, this is what I'm most scared of right here. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm going to be showing you a couple of videos back to back here. It's just 2 videos, and this is what I'm worried about because the Eagles are good. Obviously, they killed the Titans. This is where I think they're going to abuse us the most. Tannehill runs a play action. He's able to like take a couple steps rolling out of the pocket, and then just takes off for like a gain of 20 against the Eagles. And like, listen, Tannehill is older but athletic guy. But the thing is like the Jags have showed the inability to keep the quarterback in the pocket at all, regardless if you're a running quarterback or not. Every quarterback has ran the ball against us, like every single quarterback. And I bring it up every single week on these shows if you watched them. The quarterback getting outside the pocket and running is going to kill us. And Derrick Henry, the threat of him running inside just makes it so hard to account for all the running lanes. So on play action, when you're in man and like or you drop into a zone, it's easy for any quarterback who knows what the defense is going to do or can kind of read a defense to not be able to find a running lane. And I think the Eagles have a very underrated defensive line. So I didn't expect him to do that. I mean, there's one there, and then I think this is another one here. This is a different play against the Eagles. Tannehill's in shotgun. It's just going to roll out and then just, get upfield. I mean, he's going to do this a lot against us, and that's where I think we're gonna really drop the ball. We got to keep him in the pocket. Jesus is King, who says Josh Allen should be our best defensive player, but he's regressed. So on my last show, I talked about how the Josh Allen's contract set up to where it doesn't really make any sense for us to get rid of him next year. The only argument you could make, as far as cutting him, doesn't save us really any money. Could you trade him? Is going to be the next question, right? Is someone willing to trade a pick for Josh Allen? And then that asks us the question, what's he worth? If he continues on the trajectory he's on now, is he going to be a 5th round pick? A 4th round pick? I mean, Look what we're giving away people for nowadays. Look what we give C.J. Henderson away for. Look what we gave Laviska Shenault away. Gardner Minshew. I mean, these players don't have value on the trade market like the fans think, right? We've seen that over and over again. So what's Josh Allen's real trade value? I think he's more valuable on the team next year, and just let him walk after exercise his 5th year and let him walk. I mean, it's just there's a chance the guy turns a corner next year. So I'm willing to take the bet on that. But he hasn't been good. You're right. I mean, does he have a chance this week? I mean, let's take a look. I mean, I have the Titans defense right here. They have a lot of injuries, man. Jeffrey Simmons, good player, very good player. Autry's out. Good. Denico Autry's a great player. He's out. Andrew Adams, 509. I mean, their safety's been very underrated. Very underrated player. David Long, very underrated player. But again, now we're down to 76th grade. DeMarcus Walker only played in 264 snaps. That's about a third of the total snaps that the teams had. Maybe a little bit more than a third. Tyre Tate, he's hurt. So they're just very injured, and their defense has potential for us to move the ball. We just can't do the dumb things. We can't fumble. We can't turn the ball over in the red zone. I'm not worried about Trevor, really. I'm worried about more, ETN fumbling, or whoever their back is, Hasty. Doesn't matter. Snoop Connor. I'm worried about all of them fumbling, to be honest. DJM in the comments says, "Is our defensive talent really that bad? Or is it the coaching making it look worse?" No, it's the defensive talent. It's not the coaching. Listen, I kind of talked about this earlier in the show. This is what the Mike Caldwell game plan has been. He came into Jacksonville, was pumped about having Devin Lloyd and Travon Walker, put them in what he thought was the ideal situation for those guys. And I don't blame him. I think I may have done the same thing. I like Travon Walker better at the interior defensive lineman, whether it's a 3-tech or a 5-tech. So whether it's like a D-end in a 3-4 or a D-tackle in a 4-3. Like, I like him a little bit more interior. And but if I were to draft, and I've watched him at the combine and then looked at his measurables and his analytics, I would have thought that, okay, put him in D-end and see what he can do. But I think Caldwell might have gotten a little too hung up on the analytics on Travon Walker, but that happens, man. Listen, it's a feast or famine strategy. You're either going to hit a sleeper or you're going to miss completely. And he went feast or famine on Travon Walker. Aiden Hutchinson was obviously the safer pick, but he looked at the analytics. He looked at the 4-3, the 3-cone. He watched him play. He watched him in person, saw how big and strong he was. He saw just an insane athlete, and he drafted him higher than he should have been. And I would almost give him like a pass for that if he hadn't done the exact same thing with Clavon Chazon. Clavon Chazon is the exact same situation, just 20 picks later. An insanely athletic guy. You watch him in person, Clavon is a beast. He does things that no human can do with his size and speed, but it just doesn't translate to football responsibilities. I think Travon Walker is going to be a good player once he goes to his natural position. He'll be good, 100%. CF Coasters is agreeing in the comments with Jesus King. He says, hopefully he plays good in these last 5 games, but it isn't looking super great for him, sadly. Yeah. Yeah, listen, we have issue there at defensive line, and it's frustrating because we've tried to address it with first-round picks in the last, twice in the last 5 years. That's what makes it frustrating. But you got to hit. Listen, it doesn't matter if you it doesn't matter if you draft there. You got to hit. And Caldwell's just did I say Caldwell? Wow. Balky. Jeez. I'm confusing Caldwell and Caldwell. Yeah. Balky took a chance on Walker, and it could still work out for him. Listen, it's rookies hit a rookie wall. I don't know what else to say. Here's a little 3-play progression that really surprised me out of the Titans here. Okay, so they get the ball back, and so here's an interesting formation. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm showing some plays here. I'm going to show like a 3-play drive here by the Titans. That it's really interesting, right? So they're going to obviously lean heavily on Derrick Henry. I would too, right? Derrick Henry's a beast. They're going to lean on him. And so they're going to lean on Derrick Henry here. And they're going to be in a pretty heavy personnel, right? They are 2 tight end sets. This is Austin Hooper. And this is Jeff Swaim, former Jaguar great Jeff Swaim. So they're 2 tight end sets. They're heavy. One of their issues is they don't really have the greatest offensive line due to injuries, right? So if we look at their offensive line, this is where the Titans are going to be a little lacking, I think. So at left tackle, this is Dennis Daly, right? So Dennis Daly hasn't even really been playing a lot of the snaps, even behind Luan. They had another guy here, and he's been okay. He hasn't been great. Aaron Brewer has been very inconsistent at left guard. He has some good games, and he has some bad games. He didn't play well against the Eagles. And a lot of these plays make him look bad, but he's not horrible, just from like what I've seen. But that's just my opinion here. Ben Jones is kind of in a similar situation, more on the down end at center. He's okay. Wouldn't want him to be the starter for my team. Nate Davis here. So this has been their guy that's been their right guard, Nate Davis. This is the guy that's been like surprisingly good for them, right? Maybe not surprising. If you're a Titans fan, you're like, we've known he's good. It's fair. It was surprising for me as an outsider. Nate Davis has been playing pretty good, I think, just watching through some of his games. Good right guard. I like him there from what I've seen. All right, this one's interesting here. This is Nicholas Pettit-Frere, and this is a guy from Ohio State. This is the guy who I wanted the Jags to draft. If you watch any of my videos talking about who I liked, this is a rookie right tackle, and I like him. I think he's a good player. I mean, he hasn't been great every game, and he's improving, but I like him, and I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. Your 2 tight end set here. So this is what they're going to want to do, right? They're just going to want to run the ball with Derrick Henry. This was just the Eagles are just good at filling gaps, man. Like it's hard to get a run off here. Bringing Robert Woods in to motioned in to block, and basically they just missed the double team. And I mean, like again, this is hard. Like when you look at the center, if you're listening to the podcast, the center and the right guard are basically going to do a double team, and then the center is supposed to get to the next level, right? So his job is to block him there. He doesn't get off of the block fast enough or doesn't locate the linebacker fast enough. And he's able to keep his outside arm free and kind of make a tackle on Derrick Henry. So that's the first play. It doesn't work, run to Derrick Henry. Second play, they're in shotgun, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 11 personnel. Then now they're going to run the ball again with Derrick Henry, right up the middle, inside zone. If you all know me, this is my favorite play right here. This play should have worked, and honestly, it did kind of work. I mean, Derrick Henry got like 3 yards. If this play was on first down, now you're looking at 2nd and 7, but they did it on second down, so now they're looking at 3rd and 7. But regardless, like the run up the middle, gain of 3. Then they go to shotgun. They bring in the passing back, 3rd and 7, and then Tannehill gets sacked. And like this is just good football here. Now, Linval Joseph, you remember the name, playing nose tackle for the Eagles, just collapses the pocket and forces a sack. It's just that's what they're going to do. They're going to run, and then throw. Run, throw. So can the Jags stop that? I don't know. Timmy Devil 999 is here. He says, guys are not making plays on the field. He says, we need to fire the linebackers coach because he has our rookies spinning on a top. Our DBs are only good at coming down the line. Coverage is trash. So the problem, Timmy, is that Mike Caldwell, I think, was the linebackers coach in Tampa. So the linebackers coach in Jacksonville is probably not saying much, and Caldwell is probably spending a lot of time with the linebackers. So it kind of falls on, because Caldwell, I mean, he's a guy that's known for running defense with good linebackers. You look at what he had in Tampa, and it's just, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just think you're right. The guys on the field are not making plays. You're 100% right there. I don't think it's the linebackers coach's fault, though. So I agree with you kind of. Kind of. Timmy, you know I can't agree with you 100% every time. DJM in the comments says, call me crazy, but I think the defense will win us this game against the Titans like they once did at the beginning of the season. So a guy who really is going to be like a guy we really missed last week against the Lions was Andre Sisco. Like he is not getting enough praise for the way he's elevated his game this year. Not having him on the field was evident. When we played every team, we played the Lions, when we played the Ravens and we played these teams that run the ball a lot, the Eagles with their quarterback, then you saw Sisco's presence. The Chiefs, remember the Chiefs game? Sisco like lets you know he's on the field. Like he's going to take out one of your wide receivers. He's like, hey, don't forget about me. Sisco's going to say that once a game, probably twice a game. Like, hey, don't forget about me back here. And that's really valuable. And that was missing in the Lions game. It was. So he's questionable. He's going to be a big factor for me. Sisco, a guy taking a big leap this year. If we're talking player who's made the biggest leap from year 1 to year 2, it's hard not to pick Sisco. And I know Campbell looked good, and I know ETN looked good, I know Trevor looked good. Like those are I know I could hear camps, all those people yelling at me. But Sisco, if he comes back and plays and the defense starts stepping up, we're going to start seeing the correlation between Andre Sisco being on the field and that defense playing well. Jaggernaut says in the comments, I hope our rookies have a second-year leap next season, Lloyd especially. Yeah, having one offseason in the NFL is a big deal, and you guys know that. Volkfang, channel member, Volkfang, says, I think the linebacker problem is that Lloyd missed all of training camp. Mental reps are something, but they're no substitute for live plays. You guys are making some good points tonight. You really are. This is why I love talking to you guys. I totally forgot that Devin Lloyd missed all of preseason in camp. It's a good point. Very good point. And he flashes. Like how many turnovers has he forced or been on the other end of? Like he flashes. So that gives you something to be optimistic about. The Great Mistake Bozo says, when's Henderson going to play? CJ Henderson, Jaguar great CJ Henderson. He's, I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. Silver64209 says, hopefully Lloyd can bounce back getting the start. That's a good point. He is getting the start back. Like, it is pretty demoralizing to get benched, especially when you're a first-round pick and you had all the hype that Lloyd had. But the problem may be Muma just might be that guy, and Muma not playing might be big too, because this is a team that likes to run the ball. We're playing. Like, have you noticed? Like we are playing a lot of teams that run the ball. And when we drafted Travon Walker and we drafted Devin Lloyd, everyone talked about this. They said, "Listen, we're going to stop Derrick Henry. We're going to stop Jonathan Taylor." Remember, everyone talked about this. Like stopping the run is a huge deal in the NFL. So we just have to stop it now. Chase says Campbell will be a dog if he learns to play the ball more. Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Young guy who's really skilled and people already respect him, and that's good. The Great Mistake Bozos in the comments says Wingard's got that dog in him. Well, he's got something. I don't know if I'd call it that dog. I mean, he's one of the Jags' highest offensive rated players. PFF. Volkfang channel member says, when things were a little slower in the first few weeks, Lloyd flashed that ability to make plays, but once things got more complicated and faster, his head was spinning. Okay. All right. True. We'll see. I tried to make the argument for the rookie wall last week. I don't know. I try to advocate for these players. DJM says, I feel like our linebacker room is the most complete room in our defense. I see what you're saying. I mean, it really hinges on Lloyd. Like, Lloyd's got to be the guy that we all thought he was. Because Muma's going to be better, and Aluakon is great. Love Aluakon. Another guy doesn't get enough praise. This team is so much better than they were last year. Like, again, we're talking serious Jags football in December. Let's go, boys. It's only going up from here. Here's Tannehill hitting A.J. Brown. Or not A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown getting hit against the Titans defense. Again, the Titans did like to run the cover one here. I wish the Jags could hit this play consistently. If you're listening to the podcast, the Eagles would just line up in 10 personnel, 1 running back, 0 tight ends, 2x2, 2 receivers on each side. The Titans just roll into a cover one man like the Jags used to do at the beginning of the season. And Jalen Hurts just hits a beautiful vertical route on the sideline to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown toe taps the sidelines, and this is where it's weak. I mean, this is what the teams did to the Jags week in and week out, and this is why Mike Caldwell had to switch out of what he wanted to do, is because our corners couldn't hold their end of the bargain. To be fair, it's really hard in the NFL nowadays to cover the sidelines against these guys that are these quarterbacks and receivers that are just absolute professionals at executing that vertical route to the sideline. Timmy Devil says Henry goes for 120 ? Anybody want to place bets, or Ryan Tannehill goes for 2 tutties and 279 yards? I mean, look, I think Henry's going to go for 120. If I had to make a bet on which one of those was going to happen, I think that Derrick Henry is just not even like the fact that he has our number, because I don't really put too much stock into that. But the fact that he is just a beast of a running back. I think he goes for about 120, even though we'll stack the box. We'll get everyone in there. We'll get Wingard in there. We'll get Jenkins in there. Aluakon, Lloyd. All the big boys will be there, and I don't think that we'll have any luck at stopping Derrick Henry, even with the Titans' offensive line being a little weak. Volkfang says Lloyd needs live reps, but with the Jags not out of the playoff contention, they can't have him helping to lose games. Well, I think with the injury to Muma, he's that. You got to play. It's either him or like Shaq Quarterman. Ringo or Porter? This is Drawbond. Drawbond, we are not there yet. I haven't watched enough film on these guys. I told you guys always ask me who I want to draft, and I am pumped about deep diving into the film of a lot of these players. But unless they played for Florida or Florida State, I haven't watched enough film on the players. The only thing I have time for, I watch so much professional football in the NFL and other sports that I don't really have time for college football. I watch the Gators and Florida State. I watch all of their games. I love those teams. I can tell you about any of those guys. But I don't know enough about these players to. I'll say something and it'll be wrong, and I don't even want to do that. But if you give me like January, February, we deep dive into the college film, and we'll do live shows and we'll look at the college film together. But it's not fair. I don't know enough about who do you want? Who do you think, Joseph? Who do you like there? Because you've probably watched more of them than I have. I mean, I've watched a lot of Georgia, but I'd never really looked at Ringo and like specifically like how good of a defensive back he is. So that's why it wouldn't be fair. I mean, I plan on doing it, but I haven't done it yet. I've heard he's good, but I'll give you my honest opinion in a couple months. 100%, I swear. We'll do a deep dive. We have to talk about something in the offseason. Timmy says, it has not been pretty against Henry, man. Like a bad taste in your mouth. I know. Legend. What up, Legend? Legend in the chat says, am I the only one wondering why we almost never air it out with Trevor? Is it a personnel thing or scheme or both? Kirk has had successful deep shots in Arizona, but we almost never take any shots. So I think that you'll see Peterson take shots on like this. This is what I was trying to tell you guys last couple weeks. For his risky and gambler reputation that Doug Peterson has, he actually is pretty conservative with his play calling. Like 4th and 1 going for it, but then on that play, he might run like a double reverse. But when it comes to like when he takes shots and when he doesn't, he really wants to take what the defense gives you, and that's smart. If you get into a situation where it's 2nd and 1, 2nd and 3, he'll take a shot because he knows that he can pick up those 3 downs on the next 2 plays or 3 yards on the next 2 plays. But he's not going to just randomly take a shot. He's just not that guy. And I like that about him. It's a little predictable, but at the same time, if you build your team correctly with the talent the way you're supposed to, and you are confident in your team, that's the strategy that works. If you have a team that's like an underdog, then yeah, bomb it out on first down. You have to. But Doug Peterson's trying to build a systematic offense that executes perfectly. And when that's what you're trying to do, I think it's just not as deep shot-y. Now, should they take more deep shots? Absolutely, legend. I get what you're saying. You're right. And history has shown us that we should take more deep shots. I don't know. Offensive line, it's harder for any offensive lineman to block a 5 to 7 step drop than it is a 1 to 3 step drop. Maybe Doug's factoring that in a little too much. I don't know. You're right. Philip Butcher, channel member, says, "What's up, guys? I made it. I took a break from Jags content, but I'm still here." Philip, we missed you, man. We missed you. I'm glad you're back. Listen, taking breaks, this is a life lesson. Taking breaks sometimes from things is the healthiest thing you can do. And if you're a workaholic or you're someone that's extremely self-motivated, it may kill you to take some time off from something you know you should be working at and getting better. But planned breaks and planned rest could be the best thing for whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So, Philip, don't feel bad. Philip goes on to say, "I think we shut down Derrick Henry, and I think Doug Peterson helps make some adjustments to the defense, and we come out with a win 23-20. Now, that's a pretty solid point as far as the low-scoring game because the Titans and the Jags have both not scored a lot of points recently." Chase says, "I think he'll take shots if we're ahead in the game. We play from behind a lot, so you got to be safe with the ball." Yeah, and when your running back fumbles the ball just randomly. ETN's like fumbling a lot. Like, hold on to the football, brother. Like, I know. I would fumble every time I got hit by one of these guys, but I'm not in the NFL. Hold on to the ball, brother. But I think it'll be a good game. I really do. Looking forward to it. We're gonna be probably. I always have a show lined up for Saturday, and then like people always back out on Saturday shows. So I have a show planned for tomorrow, Saturday. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we get it happening. Hopefully we get it on here. I really want to hit up Tyler Shatley, and I hope he'll just do a quick spot for us because, man, what a great guy. I really can't say enough about Tyler Shatley. Football players and athletes in general don't get enough credit for like things they do outside of the game. And a lot of them are very philanthropic. English is hard. But I like to give credit where it's due. So shout out to T-Shat69. DJM in the comments asks, "Would you say Hasty is as good as James Robinson?" I haven't seen enough of Hasty to evaluate him enough. They're completely different players. Hasty hits the hole as fast as he can. And J-Rob is very patient but can anticipate gaps opening up. So that's one thing I was thinking about James Robinson with New York is like I don't know if that offensive line isn't built the same as the Jags. Like even when you're just switching from a zone scheme to a power scheme, then it's like, and I know the Jets do technically run a zone scheme, but they don't have like the guys, like the Jags have some big boys. Like the Jags have some big linemen. Cam Robinson and Juwan Taylor are both really, really big people. And then Brandon Sheriff's a big boy in his own. Luke Fortner, big. Shatley is probably the smallest of the group, and he's big. So the Jags have a pretty big offensive line, and James Robinson was really good at kind of anticipating where his blocks were going to open up. Hasty's just kind of hit the hole and go. And the coaches would rather have the hit the hole and go guy. That's why people like James Robinson go undrafted and lose reps. But it's tough. MT says, what I would do if I was GM. Okay, sorry, I had to interpret that a bit from MT. What I would do if I was GM is I would draft Hyatt, draft Battle, sign Daron Payne, sign Murphy, re-sign Allen and Smoot, let everyone else go, fire Caldwell, switch to a 4-3. We'll make a playoff run. Sounds like you played out this scenario on Madden before, and it worked out. So I'm all for it. I like Daron Payne. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I don't know how you knew that, but I loved the Daron Payne pick. I was huge on him coming out of college. I don't think you have to re-sign Allen. I think Allen, you can pick up his 5th-year deal. Smoot, I don't think you can re-sign Smoot. There's just no cap space for Smoot whatsoever at all. None. This team is going to have to cut some people that are decent. Like Jawan Taylor doesn't get re-signed, I don't think. You're not re-signing Rayshon Jenkins. I don't think you're re-signing Shaq Griffin. I think all those guys walk. Unless Rayshon may take a team-friendly restructured deal, and maybe he sticks around if he likes it here. But, I mean, everyone else is, like, gone. Roy Robertson Harris, can't afford him. And I like him. Legend says, I think we need to use Hasty more on 3rd down. Obvious passing situations. He's been nice in the passing game. He has been. I'm usually, you're right, Legend. And I'm more of a person that's typically like, nah, ETN's better. Let's give ETN all the reps. But Hasty has proven. Like, we're deep enough into the season where Hasty's like, he might be better in those situations. Good point, Legend. Chase says, it's a crime how James is treated. James Robinson? He has 5th year. Yeah, I think we have a 5th year option on Allen. I think we do. And I don't think, and so so we looked at the contracts last episode, and cutting him saves you like $0. So you might as well keep him on the team because you can pick up his 5th year. You can pick up his 5th year option. As far as like what it counts towards your salary cap, I did a whole breakdown of like what players have actually gotten paid, but then like teams can pay players one thing, but then it can go against your cap as different. I don't really want to get into it right now, but the salary cap's complicated. But basically, what you actually pay people and like your official books you turn in the NFL don't have to be the same. To make it a short story short. Jenkins is still under contract for 2 more years. You're right, Robert. But here's the thing: if you cut Jenkins, you save like $7 million on your cap. So like you basically free up $7 million. So can you replace a safety for $7 million? And it might be more than that, but yeah, you can. Like you could probably draft a guy to give you what Jenkins is giving you, and then use that $7 million to bring in a star. Like combine it with other. We're minus 20. We have minus 24 going into next year. Negative 24. And that's with the salary cap going up to $220 million. Like we have to free up $24 million somehow. So the Griffin contract saves you like $12 million. So that's got to go. And Shaq Griffin's been marginal. Roy Robertson Harris saves you like a $5 to $7 million. So that one's got to go. Then you look at Jenkins. That's why I said Jenkins. I think you restructure Jenkins. Can't sign Evan Ingram unless he restructures for cheap. You can't sign Jawan Taylor. Clavon's gone. He saves you a couple million. Go back. We did a whole show on contracts. We did a whole hour show on contracts. It was like 2 days ago. So go back and watch it. It was a great show. Moon Illusion says, I know a lot of Jags fans want the front office and Doug to draft a receiver in the 1st round, but do you think they'll actually do that? I doubt with the acquisition of Ridley, but who knows? I'm right there with you, Moon Illusions. I think me and you are on the same wavelength of they shouldn't probably, but they might. But I think we looked at the Zay Jones contract. He's here next year. So you are going to the season with Kirk, Ridley, and Zay Jones as your 1, 2, 3. And that's actually a really good 3. It's a really good 3, I think. So I don't think you draft a receiver. I think you draft a corner or a D lineman at any spot. Best player available. BPA. Easy picks, Ringo or Carter. Yeah, I mean, Carter looks like if he's there, he looks like the pick. I don't know. I don't know. Well, listen, hey, I appreciate y'all being here. This has been a fun show. I'm gonna take like a 5-10 minute break, and I'm actually gonna jump on Twitch, and just because I feel like playing some COD. So if you want to talk Jags more, I'm on Twitch. It's Jags_United on Twitch, and we'll talk more Jags there. While we do that, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the channel members that were here. Volk Fang was here. Philip Butcher was back finally. All kind of channel members were in here today. Had a good time there. Jesus is King. We always give him a special shout out. Nolly Full Cab. Everyone else that was here, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll be back hopefully with the show tomorrow. If not, we'll be hanging around. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast just because you guys that are here, you want to help me out and support me. So go subscribe to the podcast. It'll help the numbers. Even if you don't listen to podcasts, just Jaguars United on all the podcast platforms. I like to see what happens there. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend who may be a Jags fan about the show. But until next time, love talking to you guys. Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.